help you?
Yes, my name is Schuster. I have an appointment to see Mr. Peyton.
Schuster. Mr. Schuster, would you wait in Mr. Peyton's sitting room, please? Right through that door.
Through the door?
Yes.
Would you like some coffee, Mr. Schuster?
Oh, no, thank you.
Well, then, won't you sit down, please?
Oh, I don't mind standing if it's not too long a wait.
Too long a wait? Oh, I'm afraid there's been a misunderstanding.
About what?
Oh, Mr. Peyton isn't seeing any visitors today.
But I have an appointment. The Peyton office made it for me.
I'm aware of that, Mr. Schuster. Evidently, no one was thoughtful enough to advise you. Mr. Peyton's having one of his bad days. His doctor feels it's inadvisable for him to have any visitors.
I'm not a visitor. I'm here on very urgent business,
Mrs. Hannah Cord.
Cord?
Stephen is my son. I'm, Mr. Peyton's housekeeper. I've been with him for a great many years. Is there anything else that I could do for you, Mr. Schuster?
Yes, there is. I'd like to talk to Mr. Peyton's doctor.
Oh, of course. I'm sure that Dr. Rollins would be happy to confirm Mr. Peyton's condition. You can reach him on extension 173. You may use this phone.
No, thanks. I'll check with him on my way out.
Is there any message you care to give me for Mr. Peyton?
No, I'm afraid any message would prove quite inadequate.
I presume that you're here in connection with the monthly report.
You presume correctly, Mrs. Cord.
I merely thought you might want me to give it to him when he's feeling better.
Well, don't you think that I ought to check with Dr. Rollins? I mean, I wouldn't want to do anything that would affect Mr. Peyton's health.
Why don't you mail the report? It would save you another trip.
That's very thoughtful of you. But if I wanted to mail it, I wouldn't be here, would I?
It was a pleasure meeting you, Mr. Schuster.
Thank you for all your trouble, Mrs. Cord.
Month-end requisition authorizations for Mr. Schuster's signature.
Thank you.
They could have waited, but...
Mr. Schuster will be very pleased to have them early.
Has he called from Boston?
Why do you ask?
Curious.
About what, Mr. Cord?
The report.
Mr. Schuster didn't say.
Well, weren't you curious?
No. Now, if you don't mind, I do have to get these letters out.
As long as he didn't say anything, I guess that means bad news. Oh, come on, Mrs. Anderson, he must have said something.
Mr. Cord, do you happen to know what went on in Boston?
You know, it's too bad you have to see me scrambling around here trying to keep my head above water.
I don't follow you.
Well, if you and I didn't bump into each other like this during the business day, you'd have an entirely different attitude toward me. And toward my seeing your daughter.
Well, that's a rather difficult thing to speculate on.
I don't think so, Mrs. Anderson. As long as I didn't keep Betty out too late, as long as I was polite and my car was comparatively new and always shiny, and as long as I had a good job with a good future, such as I had, and as long as Betty was fond of me, which she is, then you'd be very approving of me.
I'm afraid that you are, exaggerating my importance.
Would you prefer it if I stopped seeing Betty?
Are you serious?
Answer honestly, please.
I don't know that I can answer that.
You can say yes, you can say no. And you've got all sorts of possibilities in between.
I think it's more important if I know whether or not you're serious.
Do you think I'm serious? Answer that. The eyewitness is instructed to answer the question. You know, it's interesting to see how difficult it is for you to admit the truth about how you feel concerning me. Tell me, Mrs. Anderson, was it so much better having Rodney Harrington as a son-in-law?
Afternoon, Rod.
Stephen?
Buy a lunch?
No, thank you.
Oh?
Well, I'm not going to have lunch right now.
Have a choice here? I thought we might talk.
About what?
Current events, social events. The Schusters are giving a big dinner party tonight. In your old house.
Yes, I know.
It doesn't seem to bother you.
Listen, it's their house now. They're living in it. If they want to hold a track meet in the living room, that's their prerogative.
I'll have to tell them.
I don't think they're really waiting for my permission.
Still, it'll make a good story at the cocktail hour.
Well, have a pleasant evening.
I'm taking Betty.
Have a pleasant evening.
I can't get a rise out of you today.
Sorry.
Your mind wandering?
Yeah, it usually does when I'm talking to you. Don, listen now. Where do the Chernocks live?
Chernocks, down towards the wharf on Collins Street.
Oh, thank you.
Preview from the continuing story of Peyton Place.
Listen, if you'll take off your boxing gloves for just a minute, I might apologize.
Do you still want to?
Well, frankly, no. Why did you call? To see what the climate was. I'm glad it's gotten warmer.
All you needed is to be reminded of it.